everyone. My name is Michele Grosso, and I'm the CEO of Democrats. I'm extremely excited to be here today. This is the first live event that I do, I think, in 9 months. And I'm even more excited because we have here with us Manuel van Lijf, Director of Digitalization and Innovation at Daman, the UAE's national health insurance company. I'm going to be interviewing him around the theme, building an innovation culture in traditional insurance. With that, I would like to invite Manuel here on stage. Hello?
Test.
Working fine.
Absolutely.
Cool, Manuel. Thanks a lot for being here with us today. Let's start with the basics. So we have just heard a session on fintech, and normally in each and every single fintech conference that I attend, insurance always comes at the end as the laggard that the industry that no one really wants to talk to.
Yeah.
It is often stated that insurance as an industry has been slower to respond to change and to the imperative need for digital transformation.
Yes.
What is your stance on this?
Well, yes. If I read the literature, it always comes up that the insurance industry is a bit lagging behind from banking. So it's the second wave after fintech. You compare it to e-commerce, aviation. Yes, it's a little bit behind. It's also an industry that is hundreds of years old. The industry is blessed with a lot of legacy in IT. It's heavily regulated. And these are all factors that, in general, slows down digital transformation and innovation. But I think it's an incredibly exciting industry to be in at the moment because of the InsurTech space and what's happening. I think insurance can learn a lot from what's happened in e-commerce and in fintech, and not make the same mistakes. A lot of the presentations we've seen this morning, previously today, on KYC and onboarding and digital identity and biometrics, there's a lot of that can be immediately applied to InsurTech and to insurance companies. So I think in that sense we're blessed that a lot of the learning money has been paid by others, and we can benefit from that.
Definitely. And if we look at the past, let's say, 12 months, do you think that COVID has helped to accelerate the digital transformation of the industry?
Yes, I think it has had a tremendous impact, not just on the insurance part, but in the healthcare system as a whole. If we look at a very simple example, if we look at the claims that have come in, and I think everybody recognizes that a lot less people went to the doctors in the first half of the year. And how that has impacted our industry, we don't know yet, because yes, a lot less claims have come in the first half of the year, but we're picking up in the second half. Also, probably a lot of diagnoses have not been established in the first half. That might have a deteriorating effect on people in the second half of the year. If you look at the insurance operations, we still operate quite a lot of branches because of language and documents, and those branches had to be closed in the first half of the year. So a lot immediately had to be upscaled online. People could not go to branches anymore, had to go online. So call centers had to be upscaled. Our digital processes had to be improved online. Also, the way that people interact with providers and doctors, and the way that we facilitate that, had to go online. And for example, a great way to see how that has changed is the number of regulations that came out in the first half of the year. Regulations in terms of teleconsultation, Internet of Medical Things, electronic insurance, promotional communication. All of that regulation came out in the first half of the year as a reaction to what was happening.
Let's actually. I would like to get more into the customer. However, just before that, you mentioned regulation, and yes, we have seen quite a lot of new regulations here in the UAE.
Yeah.
Why do you think that this came all of a sudden in this first 6 months of the year? And what do you think the effect of that regulation will be in the market?
Yeah, I think it was very positive to see how quickly the regulators and the government reacted to the reality in hospitals, in people needing medical attention, and a lot of people and companies struggling with how to address it. In some instances, the regulator was faster than some of the hospitals or insurance companies. So that was a good thing. It provided the frameworks and the rules of the game. What can we do in teleconsultation, and what can we do with home delivery of medicine? How can we sell insurance online? So I think that was a very positive way to immediately set the rules for that.
Definitely. If we look back at the customer, so we see in the emerging markets that we work with that among the people who are traditionally uninsured or underinsured, yes, there is recently a much higher awareness of products such as health insurance and telemedicine. I'll give you one example. We work in Egypt with an insurance company who sell and service their products to micro entrepreneurs, so that are customers of different microfinance institutions. So they would take a credit, and then there is insurance attached to it. Then insurance component has also a component of health insurance. And before the pandemic, the agent at the branch really had to explain the product, because normally these customers, they never had insurance before, right? During the pandemic, we have had that telemedicine is these additional benefits, and customers have really, started using it without even the need of actually explaining it. If we move back to the typical health insurance customer here in the UAE, how does the awareness and the attitude towards insurance changed?
Yes. So the big advantage, at least in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai, is that health insurance is mandatory, and it has to be provided by the employer in most instances. So the effect that the pandemic had is, it's still a little bit of a distorted, we have a little bit of distorted data on it. So on the one side, people were very aware of, I'm either covered or not if I would get COVID. We didn't immediately see a surge in the number of people wanting to buy health insurance for a couple of reasons. First of all, contracts are annual. So we have a renewal season where the insurance contract finishes, and it has to be renewed for a new period. And it didn't necessarily coincide with the pandemic. So that is one. On the other side, people that usually need health insurance as part of their visa, we had some visa relaxing measures as part of the temporary regulation that came out by the government. So instead of having to renew because of the law, people would have some relaxing visa regulations and didn't have to renew their insurance. So that was one other factor. The third factor was that because of the economic impact in the country of COVID, some companies could not afford to buy health insurance or went bankrupt. So that was another distorting factor. So I think if we look back maybe in a year time, we will see what impact it had. I think in general it made people very aware of the need of insurance. But if the pandemic rushed everybody to buy insurance, that's not something that we conclude yet at this time.
Very interesting, and I can imagine how much all these changes, have spurred within Daman. Let's talk a little bit actually about Daman and your role. So, among all this change, adapting the values, the processes, and the practices of a huge company like Daman, it must be difficult. It must be difficult to embed a culture of innovation in everyday's work for each and every single employee of the company. How do you do that at Daman?
Yeah, that's it's true, because everybody has a day job, and doesn't come to mind every Monday morning or Sunday morning to do something with innovation. So the way that we approach it in Daman is we set up what we call an innovation modulus. And it was basically an innovation program that had 7 different services, all available to every employee in Daman. For example, we have an innovation lab, which is a space where you can do workshops and meetings, and we have all the tools, either methodologies or physical tools available to do design thinking, innovation, or in general just process improvements. We do training for the employees. We have a program where people volunteered. We have 55 innovation champions that volunteered and said, yes, I'd like to, next to my day job, I'd like to learn more on design thinking and innovation and prototyping and all these kind of things. We have an innovation award that we do once a year, just internally to recognize and reward people that do something out of the ordinary. We have speaker sessions where every once in a while we invite somebody from outside in the auditorium of Daman to talk about a topic, whether it's local platforms or AI, just to inspire people that there's more next to the day-to-day business. We do co-creation sessions with key clients, where we invite them to the innovation lab. We tackle one problem and see if we can do rapid prototyping and see if we can come up with solutions for that key customer. And the last one is that we just ask our business units, what are your key problems in your day-to-day job? Bring it up to the lab. Let's have a session where we take you through a design thinking process or customer value proposition or any other innovation process, and see if we can tackle that. See if we can build a rapid prototype and validate it with the market or the internal customer. So at least that was the program that we set up. As soon as the pandemic hit, a lot of that was slowed down because we went to virtual working from home, not have that face-to-face interaction. But we still have the innovation modules live, and we're now looking at ways to virtualize that and to kind of transform it more into a virtual program as opposed to a physical program.
It seems that many of these programs, they're very collaborative. How important is the buy-in from the top management in order to spread this digital culture that supports innovation?
I would say it is very important, because you need time of people, you need budgets, you need tools. But we try to do it more low profile, and we're trying to make it more as part of the daily job of the business unit. So if you have any kind of business issue, bring it up to us and let's see how we can come up with a solution. So if you try to bring it into the organization like that, it becomes part of their day-to-day job. It becomes part of their objectives and their target setting anyway. And you don't need to have to go through every layer of approval in the company to do innovation. It's just reaching out, building an internal network, make people aware that the innovation modulus exists, and then they just take it from there. So it's very helpful if it's really supported by the top management, but it's not always necessary if you make it part of the solutions that you can give to your company.
Definitely. Now, if we look at the reason behind the digital transformation, normally, and this is very often being associated with cost cutting and driving cost efficiencies.
Yes.
How important it is and how difficult actually it is to convince people internally that digital innovation for the customer is much more profitable in the long run than digital innovation to reduce cost.
Yes, that's very true. I think whether you call it digital transformation or just basic automation, or self-service, it usually starts with a cost-saving goal in mind. I think what everyone realizes now that many times the digital interface is the preferred interface for customers. And if you can do that extremely well, you don't only have a cost benefit, but you're really reinforcing your customer relationship with your clients, whether they're a corporate customer or the ultimate member. And that leads to a better customer relationship, a renewal rate or repurchase intention for our customers, and ultimately also an increase in revenue. So if you really do it well, if you really build that customer relationship well, it's pretty obvious for people that it's not just a cost measure anymore. It's really a competitive advantage that you can create.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we've talked about the customer, we've talked about the insurance company, we've talked about the regulator, but there are other players too in this digital ecosystem.
Yes.
And I think you touched already upon them. Have you been working at Daman with other InsurTech enablers and other digital ecosystem players?
Yes, absolutely. Although we started with the innovation modulus to create an internal culture first. And so if you don't have that willingness to innovate or to improve, it doesn't really make sense to bring in the outside world if the internal organization isn't ready. So the first priority was really to get the organization ready. But at the same time, we have a good relationship with Plug and Play in Abu Dhabi and Abu Dhabi Global Markets to expose the organization to the InsurTech world or the startup ecosystem in the UAE and beyond that. We also have a close cooperation with some key suppliers that can bring in the knowledge from outside. I think the ecosystem is really the big driver in the coming years. If you look at the digital patient record that is built in Abu Dhabi by Malafi and Department of Health, it already shows that you have the regulator that it's building part of the infrastructure. It's connected to the patients and the providers. The insurance companies can play an important role in that. And Plug and Play, for example, they have set up a health vertical where the regulator and the insurance company and the suppliers and the providers all come together to tackle a specific problem. And that's extremely valuable. And specifically, the healthcare system is dependent on all of the stakeholders in the system, members as much as regulators. So we do invest a lot of time in that. And for sure, all these players, they're helping, to future-proof insurance. Now, you talked about the future. So how do you see the industry evolving in the next 5 years? And more specific, what technologies do you think will have the biggest impact? Yeah. I would say there's the InsurTech specific space where a lot is happening, and the digital health space, where you see the insurance companies slowly changing from a payer, just paying out claims, to become a partner and a preventer in the ecosystem. So digital health is going to play a very important role, and also insurance companies stimulating people to adopt more healthy lifestyles, and a lot of technology can play a role in that. So Department of Health in Abu Dhabi just came out with the circular on Internet of Medical Things, where also driven by the pandemic, home care of patients is becoming very important. And the payers have to step into that space and say, yes, we cover part of that because it really benefits the health of the patients. On the InsurTech space, one of the big issues, I think, is legacy systems. So what I think will really become very important in the next years, how can you decouple front-end middleware and back-end systems, because the market and the environment is changing so rapidly that core systems just cannot keep up. Not in development, not the software. So I think more and more companies will rely on low-code platforms for the front end, API economy, to be able to react much faster to the changing environments. So those are two major developments. Of course, artificial intelligence is an important one. What we saw, onboarding, biometric identification, again driven by APIs and the API economy, KYC, that's also where a lot of the investments in the coming years will take place, in my view.
I absolutely agree, and at Democrats we see exactly that the biggest roadblock for innovation in insurance company is the legacy systems, and this approach of having, like a front, a middle layer talking to your back end, but not doing its job, it's actually the future. Now, I think we have 1 minute left, 2 minutes left actually. So before having your closing thought, I wanted to see if we have any questions from the audience. I think we have one.
Hello guys, thank you for this webinar. I have 2 questions actually regarding the innovation in the insurance system. First one is, we've heard a lot of news about unifying the medical records. I think when you have in the whole country a unified medical records, it will be easier to give a proper estimation for the premiums. And the second question is regarding health insurance innovation. How do you manage the data analysis that you have to get fair pricing? Although, like, when you have cars, for example, depends on the car model, year, and you can give the estimation. But when you go to humans, you can offer the 2 people of the same age, the same price, although they have different history in the medical. So I think that's the weakest point in what we see in innovation in health insurance.
Yeah.
Regardless of, I've heard you speaking a lot about the application. Personally, when I go to hospital, I will not check my application. I'll just give the card to the hospital and they will process the claim. So as far as I'm concerned, I want you to give me a proper pricing and to have a proper data analysis to the country and for the medical records.
Yeah. To react to your first point, yes, there are medical records being built at the moment in the country. The regulation around it is only limits providers and patients and the regulator for more population health purposes to access that data. Insurance companies are not allowed to access the data, to mine it, to use it for pricing or anything like that. Of course, we would love to do that, but we're just not allowed. And perhaps that's good, right? There's a kind of a Chinese wall between the two. So we do have a lot of claims data, and based on that we do our underwriting. So, but we don't have the complete overview of the patient when he doesn't submit that claim to us as a payer. The second point you raised about application, very interesting. Of course, the best interaction with insurance company is no interaction. So everything is paid for. You go to the doctor, they recognize you. So I fully agree with you. That's why I think we do see an investment in digital health coming up, where we help you as a person, either to manage your disease, if you're diabetic or obese or you have asthma, to help you manage your disease, or to do prevention, to help you live a healthy lifestyle, or if you have to go to the doctor, give you access to the doctor that you prefer, that speaks your language, that has an availability in the calendar. So we will start more investments in that space. But I agree with you, if an insurance company has a strong network, if you can go to any doctor, just show your Emirates ID and everything is paid for, that is the best experience that you can fully agree.
Just to add something, I know I'm not supposed to answer this, but I think here in the UAE, we're quite lucky. So you mentioned, the medical reports here in the country, they're all computer generated, and to an extent, they're based on templates. Now, to go back to the example that I brought before, so one of the partnerships that we have in Egypt, the one offering health insurance to micro entrepreneurs. Now, looking at Egypt, where hospital records, they're all handwritten. There is no template, so this is much more difficult. However, with technology, so with Democrat's platform, we were able to help reduce or evaluate the fraud, detect fraud on those handwritten hospital bills. To in the end, the objective is to reduce the cost of processing that claim, and therefore to make insurance accessible to people who normally do not have it. So to go back to the UAE, I think actually the foundation here is quite good. Thank you. Do we have any other? I think we don't have time left for more questions. So with that, I would like to thanks a lot, Manuel van Lijf.
Thank you, Michel.
Director of Digitalization and Innovation at Daman.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.